7 or 8 a.m. this morning, and here's what occurred. It was stolen actually out of the victim's yard in the city of Lakeland. So we had a report from the Lakeland Police Department that this piece of heavy equipment was stolen, and then we gathered information that it was in the Mulberry area. Lieutenant Rhodes is assigned to Mulberry. Mulberry is one of our contract cities, and because they're one of our contract cities, we have a staff of deputies that work solely within the city limits. Lieutenant Rhodes was able to contact the driver of the vehicle, who's obviously the suspect, over on 1st Street about 7th Avenue. At that time, she had an encounter with him. He was in the vehicle, and he fought with her, and he wouldn't show his hand. And if you look over my right shoulder, he's also got a knife in the door. And she got caught up in the door with him trying to fight her off and escape. The early information that we have is that's when she fired one time, striking him in the hip. At that time, he sped off anyway, and she jumped from the vehicle to clear it. We are still early in the investigation, and the details I give you are subject to change because, as you know, I talk to you as soon as I can with as much information, but obviously it takes a while for the detectives to sort all of this out. So anyway, at the end of the day, he fled, he drove around the block, and he stopped here. Interestingly enough, the guy that tried to hurt my deputy, my lieutenant, and tried to get away with his stolen equipment, was now seeking the law enforcement officers because he was bleeding and he feared that he may bleed out. So obviously we contacted EMS. They immediately responded. He didn't want to fight anymore. He wanted to cooperate. We transported him to Lakeland Regional, where he's in emergency surgery, and the initial information is that he will certainly recover. The investigation's underway. The state attorney's office is here on the scene as well because we notify the state attorney's office to do an independent investigation. Our criminal investigation division does a shooting investigation. Our administrative investigation team, which works for the chief of staff and me directly, is here to do an independent investigation for policy and procedures, and they report to us their findings at the conclusion of this investigation. The vehicle, the truck, is registered to the suspect, and it's got California tags. I'm not sure if they think it's okay in California to fight with the deputies, to violently resist arrest, to try to leave at all costs, regardless of the safety of the deputies or not. But there was some behavior modification here today when this guy violently resisted our lieutenant. And once again, the investigation's early. We've got lots of interviews to do, and we'll give you a wrap-up just as soon as we know who this guy is for sure and notify his family that he's been shot.
Lieutenant's first name is?
Laura Rhodes is our lieutenant. She is okay. She's bruised up some in her wrist area, she says, feels like her wrist may be spraying. But once again, all of this is preliminary information. That's the best we have early on, but we've not taken formal statements from her yet. That will occur later on this afternoon. We're currently working 2 different crime scenes, one where the violent confrontation occurred and one where he stopped and was seeking help from us. And so we certainly took him into custody peacefully that time because he allowed that. And we would have taken him into custody peacefully the first time if he'd allowed that.
I just wanted to clarify, the pickup truck is his. This piece of equipment and the trailer is stolen?
The piece of equipment and the trailer is what's stolen. And it was stolen from the city of Lakeland last night. And for those who are not familiar, the city of Mulberry is approximately 8 miles, 10 miles south of the city of Lakeland.
And there was a knife. Was there a firearm?
We're looking. We see right now either some kind of a long gun in the trunk, in the bed of the vehicle. We're not sure if it is a firearm or if it is a air rifle. So there's a lot of property stuffed around it, and that's what we will get a search warrant before we go through the vehicle. But you can visually see, obviously, a knife that was right there in the middle of the conflict.
Is it on the top shelf there? I'm trying to squint.
If you look, there's scissors and screwdrivers in the top shelf, but it's in the bottom shelf. If you focus in, you'll be able to see it.
Sheriff, there was another gentleman we saw being arrested around the corner.
Yes.
What was his role, if any, in this?
Yes. We had secured that one residence to get a search warrant. It's my understanding, once again, early information, that he lived in a shed in the backyard. And we were certainly allowing him to be in his shed and on his property. But he kept trying to go into the house. And the deputy assigned security on the search warrant location said, "You cannot go in the house. We are securing it for a search warrant." "Well, I need to go to the restroom." "Well, you can't." So he would leave, and he would come back, and he would leave, and he would come back. And finally he said, "I'm going in to get my cell phone," and he pushed past the deputy. So the deputy ran into the house and arrested him for resisting and interfering in our investigation. But it's my understanding from the deputy that arrested him, that's not our suspect's first rodeo. They have had problems with him before.
So the connection between the warrant or the search warrant and this is what?
The connection between that location is they have cameras, and we wanted to look at their cameras. And they said, "No, we don't want you to look at our cameras." And we said, "That's no problem, we'll just get a search warrant." Then they wanted to let us look at their cameras, but we said, "No, we don't want conflict later on. Just stand by, we'll get a search warrant. That'll take us a couple of hours. But we want to see the cameras that they have on their house, if in fact there is any footage." Most everyone cooperates because we want to have all of the camera angles. We want to get the best information, the best evidence anytime we're doing an investigation, and certainly one involving one of our deputies. And these folks initially didn't want us to, then they agreed, but once they agree, then we're afraid that they're just agreeing out of stress. So at that point it's better to get a court order.
And is that a front loader or a push hog or what is that thing?
That represents work, so I would have no idea other than it's a front end loader. It's a small front end loader, so I don't do that kind of work. And I'm certain that they wouldn't let me on a piece of equipment like that for fear I'd tear it up or hurt myself. Yes. Okay?
Renting from Home
All right,
Home
thank
Depot.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, we'll have more details for you later. But it appears pretty straightforward at this point in time. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
At least he likes his dog. There's a sticker on there. Just don't steal shit.
Well, he's also got a Blue Lives Matter flag on it as